Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here this evening for our Boulder, Colorado Prenda info session. We're glad you made the choice to join us, and hopefully we can answer your questions and get you the information you're looking for about Prenda. My name is Tate, and I will be monitoring some of the chat and conversation. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them in the comments and we will answer them for you. I'm also joined by Rochelle on our team, and she will be taking us through some of the details, so I will turn it over to her.
Hi, super excited to be talking about Prenda. Boulder is a place that I've never been, but I had friends go to school there and have heard amazing things. So very excited to at some point make my way to Boulder. I am excited to be talking about Prenda. We have a couple of partnerships in Colorado right now that we'd love to tell you about. And we're just sort of in the new phase. We have been in Arizona for the last 2.5 years, establishing micro schools and Prenda Family classrooms, and have grown significantly, and people know who we are, and they know kind of what kind of experience we offer to kids. And so coming to Colorado, where people don't know who we are, we're just really excited for people to get to know us, and to invite anybody, as you listen to what we talk about, and you're like, this sounds really cool. Like, we're looking for the people who will pioneer Prenda in Colorado, and just excited to share stuff with you. So let me start with Tate. Let's go ahead and start our slideshow. We're also joined by Shauna. We'll bring her in a little bit. She's a guide and also works on our team and is a Prenda parent, as am I. I have a 6th grader and an 8th grader, both girls in Prenda. And I will say, the first time I heard about Prenda, it blew my mind. I mean, that sounds cliche, but it really did. And I was just like, this is it. I'm a former high school math teacher, taught some other things in some other environments, and have worked with like little kids, high school kids, public, private, charter. And I just was blown away by what Prenda's all about. So let's talk a little bit about where we came from. In 2013, our founder, Kelly Smith, came back from going away to college and some other things to Mesa, Arizona. I know you have a Mesa in Colorado. So Mesa, Arizona is a suburb of Phoenix. And he wanted to teach his oldest son, who was 8 at the time, how to code. And so he went to the local public library and said, like, I'm going to teach my son how to code. Could I offer a free coding class to kids in the area? Sorry, my voice a little, excuse me. And the librarians were like, yeah, absolutely. And so they put signs up around the neighborhood that said, come learn how to make a video game for free at the library. Kids started coming, more and more kids started coming. The very beginning days, Kelly had this plan to teach lessons to kids, like on the whiteboard. And he found that as soon as his whiteboard marker hit the whiteboard, kids glazed over and weren't paying attention anymore. And so we decided to sort of approach that differently. He talks about a kid that was in 5th grade that hated school and hated math, but he was building his video game, and he needed to get the right trajectory for his rocket. So he's Googling trigonometric functions. And if that, as a former, again, math teacher, 5th graders aren't usually interested in trig unless they need it. And there's this really cool lesson in that of, if a kid cares because they need or want to have this piece of information, it's really, really powerful. So that's one of the things that he learned there. Then as it grew in this library that he was in, other libraries wanted to have Code Club as well. So he kind of created the system that he could share with them. And in most cases, he had a coding expert to run the club, except for this one in East Mesa. And it was just 2 kind of what I call non-technical librarians that didn't have any background in computer programming. And he was like, here you go. And their code club thrived more than any of the other code clubs that had experts in them. And that seemed very counterintuitive. And Kelly was curious about that and sort of walked through in the process and talking. And the conclusion he came to from that experience was that if the adult in the room does not have all the answers, kids feel really empowered to figure things out for themselves. And so then in 2017, he got this harebrained idea that like all of school could be like this. And so that January, he started a micro school in his house. He had one of his own kids, 6 of his friends' kids, middle schoolers, and they did this grand experiment of micro school. He had the sort of structural kind of idea behind it, but he was definitely making up a lot of it as he went along. But he had this really beautiful experience of learning with these 7 kids, enough so that he was like, this can like change kids' lives. And so fall of 18, that fall, he found 2 more guides and it grew a little bit. And then we've continued to grow. In Arizona, we'll end up, we're around 350 micro schools in Arizona now. And like when you talk to the parents and the guides in our micro schools, they're really happy. We just did a happiness survey of our students this week. It was our first one, and it was like 86% happy or very happy, which when you're talking about kids in school, like that's a pretty big deal. And our guides feel the same. So, okay, what are we talking about next, Tate? Oh, we're talking about this idea that that our mission is to empower learners. And we'd go ahead and it's a very simple mission statement of 2 words. And it isn't trite, it's really powerful. And so we dig into these words a little bit. A person obsessed with gaining new knowledge, developing new skills, and mastering new things. The thing for us is this idea of a learner, and we're not talking about a memorizer, a regurgitator, somebody who knows how to work the system. We're talking about somebody who actually like really takes in knowledge and understands how to learn. So one of the things that we talk about with our guides in their training is this idea of learning how to learn. And it's a child, an adult, you could go through a lot of time in your life, a lot of schooling in your life, and not ever really learn to learn. And then the idea of empowering is to help someone find power, the ability to do anything and become anything. So, and for us, the power in that is in the child saying to themselves, not you as the adult saying you can do anything, you can be anything, which is helpful. It's a very positive thing to say to kids. But when then a child can internalize that and say it inside of themselves, that's when you've really, like, that's the powerful moment that they really will be able to do and become anything because they have decided that for themselves. Tate, are we talking about different kinds of micro school options that we have in Colorado next? Yes, you guys, I finally understand my slides. It's taken me a little bit of time. So in Colorado, we have these 2 options. We recognize that you are not in the Colorado Springs or surrounding area. So you're gonna look at the choice on the right, Prenda Family. So Prenda Family is Prenda for homeschool. The one other way this could be done is if a collective of homeschool families, of people that wanted to do Prenda Family wanted to come together and one of those parents wanted to guide that informally as a micro school, you could do that. The difference is when we have micro schools, we're able to pay our guides. So a micro school is 5 to 10 students made up of at least 2 families. We serve K-8. They meet in person in an informal setting. Usually it's a home in Arizona a lot of times, but things like community centers, churches, a YMCA, things like that are really great places as well. And so the reason that there are these 2 options is we have 2 different partnerships that we have, that we've found in Colorado. And I had somebody ask me like, why did you, because this is our first, just so you know, this is our first real like outing outside of Arizona. And it's really, really exciting for us. And somebody said, why did you choose Colorado? And I was like, actually, Colorado kind of chose us. Like I had somebody from Colorado who's really well connected in the education world say, you know what, who knows about Prenda and loves what we're doing with kids, and said, this, I think there's some opportunity here for you to meet some people that will be excited about what you're doing. And we've done that. And so we're excited to bring this to Colorado. We don't anticipate like huge growth in Colorado this year. Like I said, we're looking for pioneers that want to help us establish the foundations of what Prenda will be moving forward for lots and lots of years in Colorado. And so if you're the kind of person that needs a lot of, like, needs everything to be very like beautiful and polished, this may not be the place for you. If you're the kind of person that likes to dig in and help create a movement, this would definitely be the place for you, where we talk about what can happen. Like, the thing I love to say is, imagine a world where kids can create without instructions. Like, that's a really powerful world. And that's what we're moving toward in Prenda as we educate our kids in this way. And the really cool thing is, at the same time that it's all of these things where it makes kids like feel great about themselves and understand themselves, it's a fantastic academic model. So let's jump into what the actual 3 parts of the day. So our days are broken into 3 parts: conquer, collaborate, and create. Conquer, as you can see, is this idea of climbing a mountain. Conquer is for K2, math and literacy, and for 3rd through 8th graders, it's reading, writing, grammar, and math. And at the beginning of every day, and it's a little bit different for those 2 age groups, so I'll talk a little bit more about 3rd through 8th, but if you have specific K2 questions, put them in the comments and I'll make sure I don't miss any of those. But they come in and they do a community circle. So in our K2s, it is growth mindset. They have a whole curriculum for growth mindset, which, if you're not familiar with growth mindset, it's the idea of like, I'm terrible at math, or I could use a little work in math. It's just this, like, I stink at math is a fixed mindset, which means you can't change. One of the really powerful words that we teach kids is yet. Like, I'm not good at math yet is one way to like shift very simply from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So in that time, and then for our older kids, they do a community circle. They have an activity where they connect in a meaningful way. And then each of them shares their goals for the day in those 4 subjects, in reading, writing, grammar, and math. And then they input those. I'll show you our software in just a minute. They input those into our software, and then they get to work. They have 90 to 120 minutes, where the coolest part to me is, so their goals, their daily goals are based on bigger goals that they've made with their parents and their guides. And by the way, we call teachers guides. So a parent that guides a Prenda family, we call a Prenda Family guide. And so bringing your kids together, sharing these goals with each other, and then getting to work and giving them the space. Like, there's a framework that they have, and inside that framework, they get to choose how it goes. So they can do English first, they can do math first, they can write first. And it's shocking how powerful they feel and how much ownership they take when they get to make those choices, which don't really, because they're still doing all the things we want them to do. They just get to control the tempo and the order, and it's amazingly powerful for them. So Tate, let's go to, do you have the Conquer slide? Okay, so in this time, I forgot about this slide. One of the things that we focus on is mastery-based learning. If you're familiar with Sal Khan, who started Khan Academy, he has a TED Talk about mastery-based learning. Highly recommend watching that. They can help each other, where it talks about working at your frontier. What we mean by that is every student is working exactly where they are. So if you have a 3rd grader who's capable of 5th grade math, we're super happy to have them do 5th grade math. If you have a 5th grader who has gaps that they have left in their math education, they can drop back into that 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, whatever it is, fill in those gaps and then move forward. As a high school geometry teacher, what I found was most of the kids I taught, the majority of the time when there was a struggle, it had nothing to do with a geometry concept. Had a lot more to do with a gap that came from 4th, 5th, or 6th grade. So I've seen that firsthand, the long-term effects of gaps in this early education. And we utilize time really efficiently, because every kid is all they have to worry about is what they're learning that day. They're not sitting in a classroom of 30 kids going, I didn't learn this yet and you just moved on, or I learned this a long time ago and now I'm having to wait for you, which happens when you're a teacher. You struggle with finding a pace that serves some percentage of your students. And in this time, everybody is served like with 100% of this time. So that's the first part of the day. It's called Conquer. The second part of the day is called Collaborate. This is a place in Prenda Family where we have to get creative, because obviously in a micro school, we have that social group built in. So depending on whether you do Prenda Family and then you have a friend do Prenda Family and you get your kids together to collaborate, or the Prenda Family team can connect you. One of the things we found in last spring during COVID time, when everybody had to go virtual, was, and it's something we didn't know yet, was that a group of kids that get together virtually on a daily basis can be a really powerful social experience. And in our minds, not as great as being in person, but in this time where safety is a question, being able to do that virtually and get those connections is really powerful. So the Prenda Family team can help you find other Prenda families that have kids your same ages and get them on. We had a group during COVID time that spanned 3 time zones and was about 30 kids that were 3 different Collaborate groups from this collection of families. They're student led and there's adult oversight, but they're student led as they do these Collaborate activities. And when I show you the software, we'll go into what some of these activities are. But those kids had like early in the first couple of weeks, they're like, can we do this on Saturday? Like they had that good of a time in it, which is a really cool thing when kids, one of the things we found in Arizona, most of our classrooms don't meet on Fridays. And when you have kids wake up and they're sad not to go to school on Fridays, you know you're doing something right. And that happens here. So the third part, that's Collaborate. The third part of our day is called Create. So this is our project-based learning. They go into a library of pretty vast library of projects around these 4 topics: discover, invent, perform, and become. And they choose a project that they're going to work on and dive in. Most of the time they have a partner, and it's a really, they get to choose what they do. So I'm going to walk you through our software. I can do can I screen share, Tate? Okay. So this is called Prenda World. We have a portal for guides and students and parents for Prenda World. This is my daughter's account. And so when they first come in, Conquer is where they go first. Like I talked about, they set their goal for the day. I'm not going to actually set a goal here because I don't want to mess with her stuff. But they choose how much math, how much grammar, how much writing, and how much reading they're going to do. And they can do writing by either typing or handwriting. They can read through one of our softwares or just read a book. She's reading one of the Hunger Games books right now. And then if they finish those things, they can do an extra activity. So you can see art, coding, geography, graphic design, Khan Academy, all these things, spelling, typing. They can do one if they finish. So it's kind of cool because it's motivating to get their other work done, to jump into something that they're really excited about. So that's what the Conquer part of our software looks like. So then in Collaborate, we do things like debate, Socratic discussion. Both of those are excellent so the principles of Collaborate are social interaction, relationship building, and communication. So as you think about what an adult needs to be successful, those 3 things are really important. And we create this space in the middle of our day to build that, to like really guide them through becoming really great at those things. Exploration is a way we do history, we do collaborative math, we do science projects with our classes, writing games. They can do a service project. Game school is playing board games together because again, it meets those principles of Collaborate. And then the last part is Create. Hopefully it'll open. It seems to be spinning. There we go. So apparently my daughter is working on Explain It to Future You. So in this place right here will tell you if you have a partner. So this is an introspective project. So it's just her. This will tell you how long it'll take, and it walks you through sort of this idea of find a future you, figure out your future self. And there's a really great story of a kid that was in Kelly's not original class, but in his class the next year, that his future you, they did the future you assignment, and he did it out of clay, and he brings it, and it was him sitting on a bean bag with a bag of chips playing a video game. And that was his future you. Like, as an adult, that's how he saw himself. And he was somebody that was just not motivated to be working. He's in his second year of Prenda now, or he just finished his second year of Prenda. And that kid came to school. I don't remember what the exact, but some sort of doctorate is what he has in mind these days. And it's just watching him shift in his perception of this future version of himself was really cool. So one of the things, let me go back to my screen share really fast. One of the things that's cool is if you have a project, oh, it's not going to let me see this. Right here, my daughter has her 2 projects in there. If you can't find a project in the library you're really excited about, then there's a template to build your own project. So kids can always in this time be following their passions, while at the same time, like getting these skills of all the skills that come with create, which is obviously creativity, but also being able to convey their thoughts and feelings and in some way. We call it create. There's always a product at the end, sometimes a digital, sometimes a physical product. So that's our model. Before Shauna, I would love to, Shauna's going to jump in here. She doesn't know what I'm about to ask her, but I would love to have you share your love for Prenda in context of the core values, like how the core values shape how and why you love Prenda.
All right. Yes, core values. Awesome. Well, I think probably my favorite part of, that probably sets Prenda apart from any other teaching that I've done, because like Rochelle mentioned, I've taught in public schools for a number of years, is the creating that culture in your classroom. And we spend probably the first 2 weeks, me a little more, just because I like to take my time through our first 2 weeks of school, and a lot of the activities that are the suggested lessons that Prenda gives us for those first 2 weeks is all about building culture and really understanding those core values and helping our students really understand those core values. So am I allowed to take you into my classroom and show my board? Can I do that?
Sure.
Okay. Oops. Come with me.
We're trying something new in this webinar. Apparently,
Yeah.
We've never done this before. We've never taken anybody on a tour before in our.
This is my house, but we have their future me and their. So we have this board. It all kind of just looks like papers on a board, but the parts to point out are the house that we build here, and this is talking about the space that we want our classroom to be, and it has all of the core values written here at the bottom. Our learning bridge, this is how to get from the minimum that we can do, but then also how to create a space where we're willing to take risks and do what we need to do to be able to climb their mountains. So they get to write all their struggles, kind of looking inward of what is a struggle for them and what they want to become. And then that's where they get to their future self. So all of that in that's probably the first week. The second week, we really get to talk about starting with heart and creating boundaries and just kind of creating a space where kids can like come in and take off their armor. And that takes time. It doesn't just take a week or two to do, but it takes time for them to build like trust in the guide and with their classmates to be able to feel comfortable and feel like they can come to a space where they can just be themselves. And once they can do that, like learning gets a lot easier. I'm not going to say they won't have struggles, but it really helps them to become more autonomous learners and being able to focus on where they really want to go, like nothing's holding them back. So I think that start with heart, figure it out, and really referring back to all of our core values. My students, I would assume that many Prenda students really know those core values, because as guides, we're referring to those every day. Did you give the example of the are you willing to climb your mountain, or are you just going to give up example? But I do that with my students. Like, this is your mountain. You have a hard time and you know that you struggle in math. Are you going to sit at the bottom of the mountain, or are you going to climb your mountain today? And usually they're like, oh yeah, well, okay, so how can we figure this out? Another core value. So like all of those core values get built into our day. And I mean, I don't know, that it's the best. Like, it's not just something that we say, we like live them. As guides, we live them. Our students, we really encourage them to understand and to live them as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Shauna. Shauna is an awesome guide, I'll have to say, and a cool friend and parent. So it's just fun. Tate, I don't remember what we talked about next. So these are our
core values here
that Shauna was talking about. Perfect. Learning over comfort is one that I have to do on a regular basis. So if you can imagine as an adult taking on as like the things that you live by, it's very powerful. Okay, are we talking about details for Prenda Family next? So let me talk a little bit about what this looks like. So what we include, so basically we have this partnership in Colorado, so we're able to have a homeschool enrichment program that's available to anybody in the state of Colorado. It is public funding, so it's tuition free. Everything that we talk about here is included, and we set you up. So all the curriculum, a computer for each child, a school supply allowance. We provide you with training and mentoring going into that, and then community as you're going. And just a really, really, especially in like the world we're in now, where people are having to do virtual school with their kids. And I have heard a lot of frustration around that. Our system is designed, we've built we've built the way to do this without a lot of pain, and with some, again, social connection available for kids. And so this is Prenda Family. So you as a parent would go through our training and be the person facilitating. One of the things I find is when you're talking about older kids, they become really self-sufficient pretty quickly. If you have little kids like K through 2, they are going to take your hands on, you're being there with them. There are a lot of tools and there are a lot of things they'll be able to do on their own, but there are a lot of things they're going to need your help with. So what else, Tate? What else am I missing? I think that's it. We need to enroll by September 25th. If you would like to join us this year in Prenda Family. And the next slide will give you our website, prendaschool.com, and you can go to prendaschool.com or type and find Prenda Family in the banner, or you can type in this Prenda-Family. And we're just excited to be in Colorado and Boulder specifically, and we hope that some of you want to join us this year and see what this is all about. Like I said, parents are incredibly happy, kids are really happy, and we just find that across the board. So Tate, are there any questions that we need to answer?
There aren't yet, but I'll give it a second more to see if anyone has anything they want to ask. In the meantime, would you mind discussing, you had mentioned kind of the two different models, but you know, if someone's interested in micro schools and it's not yet available, that transition.
Totally. So our hope is that with these partnerships that we'll be able to expand to have micro schools all over the state of Colorado next year. And so I've already talked to a few people that are like, this would be perfect if I lived somewhere there were micro schools. So we're excited to do that. And next fall is when we anticipate that being available. And like we said, we can enroll kids till September 25th and get you started in our Prenda Family program.
Awesome. We didn't get any additional questions here, so I guess you did a great job explaining it. I will say, if you do have questions, feel free to reach out to us through our website or through social media, and we will get you answers. If you're watching this later, you can comment on this video as well, and we will help you out.
Thank you. If we were in a normal world, I would be somewhere in Boulder telling you this in person, and I'm sad that I can't, but hopefully you've gotten something out of this. Have a great night.